First up, with a March 1st deadline looming, Senate Leader Harry Reid said today Democrats are now considering short-term deferrals for the so-called sequester spending cuts, and they want to couple those deferrals with tax revenue increases. All right? This is all wrong. The spending sequester should go through as it should be on March 1st. Lower spending and smaller government will keep resources in the private sector and grow the economy. All right, joining us now, somebody in the know who will be a pivotal player. We have exclusively the Senate's third-ranking Republican, chair of the Republican Conference, Mr. John Thune of South Dakota. Senator Thune, thank you, sir. What do you make? Harry Reid's getting cold feet. He now wants to defer the sequester and raise taxes.
Right, and I got to tell you, Larry, you kind of stole my talking points there, but what they're proposing doing is doing away with the sequester, which of course is the only spending cuts. You couple that with the spending cuts that occurred in August of 2011, and that's what we all voted for. And now they kind of want to do away with that and replace it with tax increases. They got their tax increase in the fiscal cliff deal. As far as we're concerned, that's been dealt with. That's old business. That's history. But they're promoting now more taxes, and they're talking about in their budget that they're going to do this year, which they haven't done, by the way, for 3 years, tax increases as well. That would be bad for the economy. It would cost us jobs, and obviously there are going to be a lot of Republicans both in the House and Senate who are going to fight that.
See, I think actually the spending sequester, the automatic cuts, are actually good for the economy. First of all, I think they're good for confidence in the markets and business. Second of all, lower spending, limited government helps the private sector grow. I think it could wind up being a job creator. We never cut spending. Most of these cuts are going to be cuts from the increase that was scheduled to happen. We never cut spending, sir.
Right, and ultimately what we do need to do, and you know this, is we have got to deal with what really drives federal spending, and that's the entitlement programs, what we call mandatory spending, and that's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, need to be reformed. We continue to put pressure on other aspects of the budget, but the fact of the matter is, as you said, we don't do anything to reduce the size of government and to basically reduce federal spending. When we do that, it unleashes economic growth in the private economy. When you get a smaller government economy, you get a bigger private economy, and I think it does restore confidence in the market. So we're very much supportive of the idea that the sequester ought to stay in place unless they are willing to work with us to replace it with spending cuts elsewhere in the budget, and namely that would be in the area, as I said, of entitlement reforms.
Yeah, but you first of all, you know that's not going to happen. Second of all, I think the minute you all start monkeying around with changes in the sequester, you're going to lose it. And they're going to come back at you with taxes. Can you tell me that you and the rest of the leadership will stand behind the spending cut sequester? I think so many conservatives and Republicans and men and women in business want to hear this. Will you stand behind this?
Absolutely, and they may try in the Senate, they may have the votes, who knows, to put something through that replaces it with revenues, although if we have 41 Republicans united, and I believe we do, we can stop that. But we always have the House of Representatives where tax increases to replace the sequester is just going to be a non-starter. So I'm pretty confident, Larry, that the Republicans here on Capitol Hill are going to be able to stop this from happening, but the Democrats, as you mentioned, are very, very nervous because they see actual real spending cuts happening on the horizon.
So you'll stick to it. What I really want to hear, you're a number 3 guy in the leadership. Paul Ryan came out on Sunday. He's for the sequester now. This is the only spending cuts I see on the horizon, sir. Will you pledge, commit that you will stand, you, Mitch McConnell, the others, will you stand behind this thing?
Right, we will, and we've got, as you know, we've got defense hawks on the Republican caucus who are concerned about the impact on the military. We all are, and that's why we have proposed, and the House has passed and sent to the Senate, legislation that would replace some of those with spending cuts elsewhere in the budget. But to your point, we have to stay committed to what was promised when the Budget Control Act was passed in August of 2011, and that is that we're going to reduce spending, and it set this process in place. We need to honor the sequester. The American taxpayers deserve that, and there's support among Republicans in both the House and the Senate to do that.
I mean, just as a last thought, we're 5 months into this deal, right? Not October 1st. We're going to do March 1st. That's 5 months. According to one of the reports, that's $24 billion lower in spending cuts that would have been the case. It seems to me out of a $3.8 $2.8 trillion budget. Now you're probably down to, what, $55–60 billion, and most of that are just slower growth rates. They're cuts in the growth rate. It seems to me everybody across the board can take that, and the American public will see that we're not Greece.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've got to demonstrate that. If we can't get spending under control, the Democrats want to do this with taxes, with tax increases, but that doesn't solve the problem. We know what we have here in Washington is a spending problem, and that's why we need to honor the commitment that was made to the American people that we were going to get spending under control. We now need to tackle, as I said before, we've got to reform these entitlement programs, Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and others, but we need to adhere to the commitment that was made on the sequester, and I believe Republicans in the Senate and the House will do that. We'll see what the Democrats try and do, but what you heard from Leader Reid today, I think, is a good indication of where they're headed.
Yeah, it's a real bad leading indicator, and I hope you all fight it. Senator John Thune, thank you very much for coming on the Kudlow Report.
Great to be with you. Thanks, Larry.